A very big welcome, everyone, to Leading Ladies Lunches, where we have conversations around different leadership topics each month and we pick up different leadership tools. So today is not just about leadership skills, it's about leadership presence, the way that we walk into a room, communicate under pressure, listen, hopefully with intent, and make others feel seen and valued. Because true leadership presence is not about demanding attention, it's about creating trust, confidence, and connection even before we speak. It's not about being the loudest person in the room, but your energy really matters. And so we're really excited here today to have a Sneha, who is your host in USA and an amazing guest. So I want to hand it back to Sneha, and I'll speak to you very, very soon and catch up in the Q&A. So enjoy this session because leadership presence is really important. Your energy matters. Speak soon.
Thank you, Catherine. I'm Sneha Vialva, as Catherine mentioned, speaker and author of Cut to the Essence, which is to be released very, very soon. And when I think about leadership and presence, one person immediately comes to mind, and that's my grandfather. He was an example of poise, power, and presence. Now, he was only about 5'5". In his latter days, he had this Santa Claus-esque beard, and he was always a man of very few words. In fact, my sister would often say, we hear one word in the morning, one word at noon, one word at night. The most we would hear him speak was when he was behind the pulpit. So we paid very, very close attention then. What I learned from him is that your presence is made powerful just as much as by what you don't do or say. He didn't draw attention to himself, and yet he commanded it. He would walk into a room and you could almost feel gravity shift. He didn't announce, he arrived. There was such a centeredness about him. So when he did speak, both his delivery and words carried tremendous weight. He was deliberate, intentional, and not aiming to impress anyone, which made him even more impressive. What he taught me was that the power of our presence arises from what we are present to. Are we proving ourselves or serving others? Are we performing or are we embodying? The bottom line, leadership presence is fundamentally an inside job. Yes, you project confidence and authority, but it's not hit or miss. It's a daily inner practice and commitment to growth. Now, I'd like to introduce you to someone who lives out that practice and commitment, Minami Yusui. Minami is a Broadway performer, keynote speaker, and the founder of You Project, helping women leaders communicate their value with grounded confidence and presence. Drawing from her journey from growing up in Japan to performing on Broadway, she speaks internationally on visibility, resilience, and leadership presence under pressure. Minami is a proud New Yorker. She loves exploring different cultures through food and travel, and is always searching for the next unforgettable meal around the world. Minami, welcome to Leading Ladies Lunches. We are so delighted to have you.
Thank you, Sneha. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm Minami Yusui, and I am so excited to be here with you today. And thank you so much for having me. Hello from New York, and I am so thrilled to connect with everyone from all over the world. And one of the reasons I'm passionate about leadership presence is because I've experienced it firsthand, how much the way we show up shapes opportunities, trust, and influence. And for years, I thought leadership presence was about trying harder, proving myself more, being more perfect, more impressive, more prepared. But what changed everything wasn't becoming a different person, actually. It was learning how to stop shrinking. And it was about learning how to stop apologizing for taking up space. And when that changed internally, as we talked, yes, internally, people started responding to me differently. So today, I'm so excited to explore what leadership presence really is, and especially for women, and how the way we see ourselves quietly shapes the opportunities we create, the rooms we enter, and the impact we are able to make. So when people hear the words leadership presence, they often imagine someone charismatic, polished, or naturally confident. Or they think maybe, oh, well, I'm not really a leader yet. And they imagine leadership presence only matters once you have a title or authority or a certain level of success. But I actually learned the importance of leadership presence long before that. I learned it through auditioning, hundreds of hundreds of auditioning. Because before Broadway, right when I started, right after I graduated from my acting school and I started auditioning, I went through 88 auditions before my very first, yes, not Broadway, my internship, very first job. And then it took me 10 more years and hundreds of auditions before I made my Broadway debut. So I've auditioned so many times and I've gone into the room, high pressure rooms, right? And what fascinated me was this. Sometimes I walk into the room with the exact same skills, the same preparation, the same voice, same look, but the response from people was completely different. And over time, I realized something important has changed. It wasn't the performance, it wasn't my performance, it was my relationship with myself. Earlier in my career, I was constantly apologizing, shrinking, trying to earn my place. I was born and raised in Japan. English is my second language. I started out very late. I started the training very late when everybody else has been training since they were age 3, maybe. So try not to inconvenience people. I was trying to prove I deserved to be there. And I've since realized so many women, especially, are taught to do this. But eventually, something shifted. I stopped entering rooms, trying to convince people of my worth. I stopped discounting my value, myself, before anyone else even had the chance to see my value. And the opportunity, when that changed internally, when I started seeing myself differently, people responded differently externally. And my audition game changed. The opportunities changed. The trust changed. And the communication changed. And so I saw this not only in auditions, but also later in leadership roles as well. I've led teams with people who had far more experience than I did. Veteran actors in Japan or on Broadway, or I now work with executives, government leaders, and incredibly accomplished people across industries and countries. And I learned that leadership presence is not about dominance or pretending to be the most important person in the room. It's about whether your presence communicates groundedness, conviction, and self respect, the relationship with yourself. So, because people often respond to the way you perceive yourself, and when we constantly minimize ourselves, over apologize, or disconnect from our own value, it affects how others experience us too. So that's why leadership presence matters long before a title. It shapes opportunities, trust, and communication and influence long before anyone officially calls you a leader. So I would love to really talk about how we can start shifting that today. It's not about don't wait till somebody's validation or somebody starts calling you or treating you like a leader, but we can start embodying today. And I'm so excited to dive into this conversation.
Thank you, Minami. That's great. Great to hear from you. So you mentioned confidence, and a lot of people think presence is about confidence. But how does one project confidence when they don't feel it? And how do they also do so authentically?
Mm. Thanks for asking. So the first time I would say we lose connection with our body when we are so nervous because of the nervous system. They try to protect ourselves, right? Many things tighten because we want to protect ourselves. And the more you can stay in touch with your body, connected to your body, your breath. Because when your breath is shallow, you're usually disconnected. You're just like so nervous and everything just gets locked up. And really becoming conscious of your breath, meaning you're deepening your relationship with yourself and awareness, right? Your body, your breath, your sensation. That's where what I always get back to. And it's not about intellectual understanding of I'm confident or not. It's about, am I in touch with myself? Am I losing myself or not? And that's something usually easy to assess by checking your breath. If you can't really if you can't really take your breath, I'm actually losing connection with myself. So can I take a little bit deeper breath today? One breath deeper, a little bit deeper. I find that so much more powerful than I'm confident, trying to, make myself believe. Get in touch with your body. Embodiment is a huge part of the practice I teach, and performing arts has given me this was the gift, one of the biggest, greatest gifts is really the deepening the relationship with yourself. So removing, actually, it's not about putting on something. It's actually removing the excess energy, excess tension that's actually taking away the connection from yourself. So yeah, the removing one layer. I think we're going to talk more about this, but that's the huge part, really getting back in touch with your body.
Yeah, the breath is so critical, right? I mean, obviously, for obvious reasons, we need breath to live, but we need breath to perform. We need breath to be present, breath to interact. And, Navy SEALs use box breathing, right, before they go into battle, right? So there's something about it that's so centering and so grounding. So, yeah, thank you for.
And I've also studied yoga, and in Sanskrit, prana is breath, but then also a life force. It's vital energy. So breath is the vital force, vital energy. So it is really directly connected to our life. And yeah, I think it's like we can use more, take advantage of that. Collaborate with your breath, your own breath more.
I love that. So speaking of breath, I'm sure you've done a lot of deep breathing in this regard. You've performed on big stages. So when you think about presence, what's the difference between being seen and truly being felt?
That's such a great question. So when people think, and myself included, when I first started learning acting, I thought acting, playing a different character, meaning putting on some different mask, right? Different character, as if, like this costume or somebody else's mask. And actually, this was let me take you back to the moment, like my very first acting class in New York City, was my second year in New York. So I could barely hold casual conversation. But for the acting class, we were given this assignment. And we were all supposed to learn the same monologue from the play called Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw. So it was classic text and full of difficult words because it's an old play. So it's not, and I could barely hold a regular conversation back then. So it was very challenging for me, but I tried to learn every single word, memorize it, and then perform it in front of the whole class. And I was very nervous, but took my big breath. And then right before I even said a single word, my teacher stopped me and he said, Minami, before you start, put your hair up. And I went, put my hair up. I was very confused. But actually, back then, I used to hate my big forehead. So I used to cover it. I used to create this huge, thick bangs. I took hair from all the way from the back and then used maybe 10 pins to fix it in place so it wouldn't budge. They wouldn't budge. And the moment teacher told me to move it, I said, sure, like I followed teacher's instruction and I tried to do that and I reached for the bangs to remove it. And I found myself frozen. I couldn't do it. I froze. And I was like, huh, it's just, bangs, you would think, but there was something more to that. It wasn't just about my hairstyle. I was not just hiding my forehead. I was hiding myself. I was hiding behind my bangs. And that's when really teacher saw through that before I even said a single word. She's hiding behind the bangs. What was I hiding? I was hiding the imperfect part of me, or like all the emotions that I thought I shouldn't show. So growing up in Japan, like all the, ugly emotions or things that you were not supposed to see, like you show just hiding. So like only showing the perfect part or the proper part. And I was hiding behind my bangs. And then my teacher saw through it and I was like, huh, this is interesting. I thought acting was putting on something, a mask or different character, but actually to play a human being realistically on stage, first you have to understand yourself as a human being, like fully, not the perfect part, not only the polished part, but all the ugly side, very human part too, the angry part, the insecure part, the different parts that you would usually not want to share. But that's also being a human, right? Part of being a human. So I was fascinated with acting because, like I thought I was learning the presentational skill, but I'm learning how to be a full human, whole human being. And I was just so mesmerized. And so this was the first time I learned that the removing what's blocking from my true self and getting to know myself. And we do that like from school, families, society expects, like all the expectations from school, society. We put on things to protect and try to hide things. But I think hiding blocks connection. And to be able to really connect and leading, when we disconnect, we can't lead. So to be able to connect with people, we have to say, what one layer can I remove? And so I usually share this tool of like one layer check and just removing one layers. So on stage, it's not about performative presentational performance. It's about actually what one layer can I remove and really connect my true essence and then connect it to the character. And that's when people feel it because they're feeling it through me, through my humanness, instead of the character's surface elements, this character. But I'm feeling something raw through this character, then audience members feel it because human beings are feeling something on stage. So that's something I learned and I've just been super mesmerized by.
I love that. It's a difference between like recitation and memorization and actually incarnation, right? Like actually embodying your message. And we were talking with a group last week about the masks we wear before we get on stage, right? And how important it is to be aware of that so that we can connect better, not just with the people, but with ourselves too. So that's really powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Just want to say to the attendees, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'd be happy to take them. And Ami would love to engage. But as we wait for that, more questions. You referred to removal, Minami, and taking things away. And I often talk about how subtraction sharpens clarity and impact. So besides the things you mentioned, are there other things you have to strip away in your performance and leadership to become more powerful on stage?
Always there's something I think we can, yeah, you probably, because you teach the cut method, which is amazing. We can always find something. It can be the tension, gripping, or something extra. Maybe we tend to put on so much words. It can be words. It can be action, behavior, or the breath too, actually. And I always come back to the body, the physical element of it. But yeah, the simpler, like your grandfather, right? He didn't have to say many words to
Yeah.
convince and lead people. It was like from that place that's stripped of excess
Yes.
layers. So yeah, I think there's always something we can remove. It's fun, like like
Yeah.
a ultimate simplicity. Yes, that we can like
Yeah.
keep pursuing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the excavation process, right? We
Hmm.
have a question in the chat from Sandra. Would you say that putting on a leadership character is a layer that we tend to be afraid of, both the fear of success and failure?
Mm. Putting on leadership character, the layer that we tend to be afraid of, both the fear of success and failure. So I wanna like actually, I don't know, question the leadership character. What does it mean? I
Mm,
feel like you're already a leader. Everybody, there's no one certain character. I think the more rooted and connected you are to yourself, the deeper the connection you will build with others. So I think everybody's leadership looks different, I think.
mm,
So I feel
mm,
like pursuing certain character is already kind of removing, like,
mhm.
going away from yourself. So I think we can come back. And so you were saying tend to be afraid of both the fear of success and failure. Sandra, can you maybe elaborate, or can maybe write some more about this? But yeah, I feel like we're always, when we are afraid of something, when we're, feeling the fear, that's our DNA, right? Try to protect ourselves for safety. So that's when we grip, when we try to hide, when we try to, tighten. So that would be the layer. And I would want to just invite you to remove one layer, because that's going to actually create connection with people, and you're going to lead so much better because you connect with people on the human level, as opposed to this hierarchy. You have to be this like surface level character, I wouldn't say presence, the behavior you feel like you have to
Mhm.
demonstrate. I would just
Yeah.
encourage you to come back to the humanness, because that's when people connect and trust you.
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all character, I don't think.
Mhm.
And I'd love to say something here too, because I feel like leadership presence, it's not just built in that one moment, the one moment before we go on stage or before we walk into the room. It's built in the moments, actually, I think, where when nobody is watching you, when
Mm-hmm.
you start to calm that voice, calm that mind, work with those work with those voices, perhaps, that come in to say, you can't do this, you're not good enough. And I really believe that, some people have that charismatic presence and they're loud when they come in, but leadership presence isn't necessarily that at all. It can be very quiet. It can be the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you have learned to slow down your breath, that your body
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
language holds you tall when you walk into a room. you
Mm-hmm.
you actually elevate that room. People feel seen. I think great leaders do three things. They communicate well, they energize you. Some people
Mm-hmm.
some people I know, they go, oh, there was only 20 people, so the energy wasn't there. It's like, we're not supposed to suck the energy, we're supposed to bring the energy.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think
Yes.
I think that's a
Mm.
little bit different. Those people with that presence, it's not like they're running around, but you can feel that when they come in. It's a real
Oh.
different, and I do believe that we can practice that just like you did for stage, for instance. And I feel that they don't rush their words. Some people get overexcited, etc. There's a difference present with someone that's calm,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes.
and and they've cut out many words. They're very clear on
Uh-huh.
what they're saying. I've
Uh-huh.
been finding out it's so much better for me to actually know what I want from the end of the conversation, not just speak lots of words for the sake of it. So I'm a little bit
Mm.
like the cut, I think, is great, Sneha, that you
Yeah.
think it's really important, especially in
Mm-hmm.
presence.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really resonate with that, Catherine. And yeah, when I was in a leadership position for the Broadway production of My Fair Lady at Lincoln Center, I was full of imposter syndrome. I'm a foreigner. But dance captain is the leadership position that usually is the communication hub for the acting company, meaning all the actors. The actors are not supposed to give notes to each other. So whenever they have issues, they need to go through me to actually get the issues or any problems solved. And that company has so many veteran actors, incredible actors, Shakespearean actors, very eloquent. And I felt like, who am I to lead these amazing veteran actors? Because I'm younger, I am foreign. I'm also like dance captain roles are usually historically have been given to white men. So it was very rare to see a woman, foreign, and Asian dance captains in the Broadway industry. So I thought it was really important to represent, but I was also so scared. And that's when I really flipped and switched how I thought what good leadership must be, because I was not gonna over speak, or I was not gonna expect myself to be more eloquent than these actors. It was about my presence being there and holding the safe space for anybody to come to me anytime. So it's the energy, right? Giving energy. When you come to me, I'll share energy. When you come to me, I will listen to you. You will be heard. It was not about how many words or difficult words I knew. It was about holding space. So yeah, the cup method will be so useful anywhere, everywhere.
I love it. I love that it's sticky and it's sticking with people. Sandra had a follow-up in the chat, Minami. She said, in my field of mental health, many of my clients in leadership roles are afraid and hesitate and shy away from or try to fit in roles, yet are surprised when they don't get in their heads about. It is often the what if. I fail. That narrative is often limiting.
Yes. Yeah, I think I keep coming back to the body part, and when we're afraid, and I think that when we get into the heads, right? And I would I usually encourage people to approach from different level. When you try to solve from, like, when you're like stuck here and then solve here, it's really not going anywhere when you're tangled up here. But really opening your body, when you're afraid, it usually gets locked up. And when I do my workshop talk, like when you open your body, your thinking changes too, mindset changes too. So I wonder if we can kind of incorporate like movement. And you're surprised. Oh, we sabotage self. Yeah, when we are not willing to fail. Yeah. Yes. And then not failing, only learning. Yes. If we are not doing right, staying in the safe zone, comfort zone, right? We are not growing either, right? It's definitely, I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah.
But I love what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying about the body and how it tightens up, like even with the words that fail, people start to, that
Yes,
tension.
script.
And
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying, it's this grip and it stops you, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why this breath, I've been working with this book, 16 Seconds, for a couple of years, doing lots of research. There's so much research around it, but we can change everything in that second
Mm-hmm.
16 seconds. And
Yeah.
so I'm not going to talk about that now. However, when I have a look at that, this failure. I was just talking about the fear of failure. Yesterday, when we were speaking to the Queensland government, it stopped so many people from speaking up, from
Mm.
getting their voice across, just in case it's not right, or others say, no, don't do that. And I think we're very, very quick to perhaps feel judged. Maybe no one's really thinking that, but we think that they will. And so you have this fear of being judged for it, but in actual fact, you're already judging others, thinking this is what they'll think. So it's a bit of a vicious circle, and I'm so glad that you have brought that up. So thank you for that. But it's definitely a way that we sabotage, when we think that we get stuck in fear and
Mm-hmm.
we don't go forward. So the body really does react. And I quite often think of that stuck, which happens to the body in fear, as well as our words and the fear of failure, is that
Mhm.
T in the word stuck. Where does that T belong? It's our thought that's doing it.
Yep.
True.
Yeah. I have three things to say, if that's okay.
Please.
So fear of judgment, like people judge either way. If you're great or not great, they judge anytime. We judge constantly. So if we start worrying about that, like like we also judge, like Catherine said. So that's they'll judge either way. If you are fabulous and amazing, they'll still judge you. So who do you live your life for, right? Do you live your life for somebody's approval, even though that person is not gonna take responsibility for my entire life and happiness, so how much energy do we want to pour into that judgment? Also, breath and the connection with the thought in acting too. When we are singing or when we are saying lines, when our thought changes, we take a new breath. The thought just doesn't change within the same breath. So when we're just like memorize the line and say the same thing, but two different ideas, but then on one breath, that's actually not true. Like when we take a breath, we can actually have fresh ideas. So when we are like in our head and worried about, take one breath and see if you can change the angle a little bit. Because breath is a great way to shift that. That's like a gear, the steering wheel. So that's already proven. So when we have a different thought, different breath happens. So it's always connected. So when we're stuck, like same shallow breath, maybe look somewhere else, and then like suddenly something else, different idea can come. And also another thing I teach in my program is the spotlight, the concept of spotlight. When we are nervous, we are usually very self-conscious. How do I look? Do I sound smart? Do I look good? Do people like me? Do people respect me? But I encourage people to put that spotlight to the people you serve. And it's not about you, it's about them. Make it about the people you serve. And suddenly that pressure goes away. And in the audition room too, when you're so self-conscious, your performance becomes like, how do I look? Do I look good? But we were trained to 100% pour our energy into the character's message, what they're doing. If I'm singing a love song to the character in front of me, my job is to pour 100%, 1,000% of my attention to delivering my word to the person I'm seeing in front of me. And if I'm distracted, if I'm conscious about how I look, I'm not pouring 100% energy. I'm worrying about if the director likes me or choreographer likes me, I'm not using 100% of energy to the person I'm confessing my love to. So that was the training we did, is how am I really pouring my energy to the work I'm doing, the craft I'm doing, the person I'm talking to. So whenever you speak, it's not about you and how smart I sound. Like by sharing your opinion or idea, no matter how, like you might think it's not perfect, but by sharing and speaking up, maybe somebody else had the same question and wondering, maybe they also wanted that clarification, and you might feel like, oh, this might be dumb to ask this question, but actually you are saving so many other people and bringing clarity. Or maybe somebody felt the same way, but you speaking up actually, started the conversation to really discuss this issue that otherwise would have been, skipped. So that really shift, it's not about you, it's about them. The people you can say serve, and the matter that the project that you really care about, I feel like pouring that energy to, like, really paying attention to where your attention is going is going to help self-consciousness and nervousness and the fear of failure.
Yeah, I really resonate with that because I've had to teach myself to say before I speak, I'm here to serve, not
Mm,
prove. And that really
mm,
reframes the situation for me, right? When it's like I'm not here to impress anyone. I'm just here to be present and to offer what it is I have, right? So I think that's really
mm-hmm,
powerful. And I think our perfectionism is our downfall, right? We
mm-hmm,
have such unrealistic expectations of ourselves. And I often talk about how we need to give ourselves permission rather than striving for perfection, right? And
Hmm.
pursue excellence, but realize perfection is not attainable. So take a risk and step out there because that authenticity will connect with people more than any polish, right? So
Yes,
it's, yeah, that brought,
100%. Yes. People don't connect to perfectionism or perfection.
yeah.
People, yes, we strive for excellence, but we connect to presence. Being here, that's also in the acting to being here, really 100% here, not worrying about the future or regretting about the past.
Mhm.
Being here with the person in front of you, that's presence, right? Being present also. So yeah, I perfectionism can be very, very tricky. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So you've talked a lot about the breath, which I love. I'm
Mm.
curious about your ritual, like your pre-game, pre-stage ritual, when everything gets very quiet. What happens for you in those moments before you get on stage or before you speak? And how do you center yourself beyond the breath?
Mm. I love that. I always check in with myself every morning and the end of the day, how I'm feeling, truly feeling, and not the polished answer, but like how am I actually feeling?
Mm,
And I always come back to the gratitude and I set intention. Where do I want to go? Just having that awareness affects what you say or like the action you take. So the intention, I really speaking in front of anybody, any meetings or meeting anybody, I usually check where I am right now and then where I want to go. So the intention setting is very
hmm.
important for me. Yeah.
I love that. So you're moving between
Yeah.
artistic performance and keynote speaking, which are two very different contexts. What's
Yes.
constant, no matter the stage?
Mm, storytelling.
Mm,
And this might be surprising, but as we said, actually, yeah, connecting with your authentic self. Acting, people think acting is like becoming somebody else. And what I loved and the amazing surprise that I had, pleasant surprise was that actually you dig deeper into your authentic self. The
mm,
acting class semester, I would say third semester, they would say start one of the criteria of good acting was use of self. If you were using yourself or not. That was
mm,
one of like how great your acting was. Meaning if you were just being presentational and things like this dramatic character, but if the audience didn't feel your essence,
mm,
that was not good acting. It was just very presentational. But if you
mm,
could actually bring yourself to the role, that was good acting. So it was always asking, who am I? And like, how can I bring myself to the role, no matter what story it was? And keynote speaking is sharing your story and sharing that message through your story. So yeah, I have a lot of I find a lot of things in common and they complement each other. Yeah.
oh, that's great. So I wanted to bring up a tension that women feel very often in leadership spaces, and that's that tension between warmth and authority. Have
Mm.
you experienced that tension? And if so, how do you navigate it?
Yeah, that's a very, I think, great thing to talk about. I feel like we talked about, oh, like leadership presence is looking polished or charismatic, but I think warmth can be there. I don't think authority doesn't mean losing warmth.
Mm,
It's knowing what you want, the clarity, having that groundedness is the key. I feel like people who try to threaten you with, impressive, whatever essence they put on, that's people see through it. We are more perceptive than we think, human beings are. So knowing what's important to you, what matters to you, and why you're there to serve, like who you're there to serve, I don't think that doesn't like you don't need to lose warmth. If in fact, I really cherish warmth, so I think that's a key to connect. And yeah, I authority can have that. I guess yeah. People sometimes think that way, huh? Like it is like opposite,
mm.
if like one way or another, like oh, this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you embody both, so you're a good person to
Thanks.
ask about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm curious about a tool, like for someone who
Mhm.
feels overlooked or underestimated in professional settings. What's one shift, just one shift they can make today that would just immediately change how they show up?
Okay. This is one of my favorite quotes. Celebrate every victory. I'm just gonna have to put this emoji over here. Celebrate every victory. And when I say victory, I don't mean this huge achievement or grand milestone. I talk about the fact that you showed up because we have been taught and just like we're not enough until like if we don't celebrate until the big milestone, we miss out all the growth, that gets you there. But we spend most of the time getting there. So if we can really change how we perceive ourselves and train ourselves to recognize every step, then naturally like how you show up changes. It's not going to be like I'm not good enough because I'm not there yet. From
Mhm.
this like not enoughness to I recognize myself. So then if you can recognize yourself, you can start recognizing other people's small wins too, because you become more compassionate. So
Mhm.
that small wins that if the awareness, like how can you become more aware of small wins
Mhm.
that you're actually achieving every day? That
Mhm.
recognition actually creates momentum. If you keep sabotaging yourself, beating yourself up every time you didn't get the exact results you wanted, it waste so much energy. We waste so much energy just to recover, to come back to the neutral. So just how to compound that win and good energy and momentum is just really being able to recognize small action you took that every time you showed up. And yeah, that being able to recognize is so important. And yeah, the audition too, it's audition room that I was talking about this earlier, but when I started, all the imposter syndrome, and I would like show up small. And it's the
Mhm.
same training, same me, same look. But when I started really recognizing my effort and my willingness to, go for it and show up to the room, my energy in the room changed, and how the directors or choreographers respond really changed. And it wasn't
Mhm.
not them, it was how I was perceiving myself. So I
Mhm.
I cannot emphasize this enough, the importance of really recognizing your daily win and
Mhm.
really building that I call it positive block, because
Yeah.
no matter how tiny, if you keep building, it will get you somewhere. Like it will get, to a certain height. But if you just like drop in that block and like, every effort didn't count, then it's hard to build something.
I love that. Mindful, grateful, and celebratory. Like those are some of the things we need, right? And when we
Mm-hmm.
present
Mm-hmm.
and are in front of people. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, we're nearing the end of our time.
Oh
And
my.
we're so grateful to have you, but I wanted to extend an invitation to our attendees that if you haven't joined Leading Ladies Lunches as a member, please do so. It's only $88 and it's a buy one, get one. So when you make a purchase of membership, somebody else in an underserved area also gets a membership. So you have access to Catherine's books, and you also have access to a course. So it's well worth your time and your investment. And you want to show the book, Catherine? The Conscious Leader, wonderful book. Please.
And we love that all these talks around the world each month also go into the kit.
Yes.
Empower Her book is there to download as well. Plus, all the podcasts are being updated in there now. So there's a lot of value, but that 88 is for the whole year, not just 1 month.
Yes, that's very true. So, Minami, it's been such a pleasure to have you, and thank you for sharing your insight and your wisdom and your experience. And you truly embody leadership presence. And so, we're so fortunate to have had you with us and to hear your thoughts, and grateful that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I have a free live masterclass as well. If you want to talk more on and go dive deeper into the presence and learn more, I have an event live coming up. So yeah, feel free to. I hope you join me. It's the secret reason smart, capable women aren't chosen for the premium opportunities and the three hidden mistakes that quietly cost women influence, opportunities, and income. I hope to see you there. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram and everywhere and YouTube as well. So yeah, I hope to stay connected with everyone. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be part of this conversation.
Yes, please connect with Minami on LinkedIn and get the information and also sign up for her course. It'll be remarkable. I've heard Minami speak in other contexts, and it's always a joy. So thank you again, Minami, and thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Sneha.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.